welcome to Steven University. This week we'll be talking about Can't Go Back, an episode that literally both Chris and I finished watching seconds ago. I just had a feeling that following this episode, you'd want to get straight going. Now, we normally will call, have a little bit of chat while we set up mics and stuff. This was very much, you just want to go, don't you? And Chris was just like, yep. So,
well, I just think it was, after Letters to Lars, it was disappointing to have an episode that was so meh again. Not much happened, not much to dissect. Woo. Okay, I don't know what's going on anymore. Right,
yeah.
Let's break this shit down.
Yeah, let's break this down because what I love is it's so Steven Universe, isn't it? It's like, it's like that running joke of, the shattering, and the description is, Greg breaks his favorite teacup, or and then the episode is like beach party, and it's like, the fucking diamonds invade or something. Do you know what I mean? Like,
so what was the description of this episode then?
I can't. You know what's funny? Actually, I honestly can't remember what the description of this episode was. I'll have to look it up. Ronaldo spots something on the moon, maybe. I don't know. Okay. But yeah.
So,
but my point is though. My point is, like, the titles never quite, like, they don't always reflect what you're getting with this show, because the shattering sounds like it would be about something big, and, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it would just be about a broken teacup for sure.
But it starts with Steven's going to sleep, and he's like, "Nothing to do but dream." I'm like, "Don't dream, Steven. Dreaming gets you in trouble." And then there's a knock at the door, and fucking Ronaldo's playing funny business. I'm like, "Oh man, really?" Steven was gonna dream.
Were you briefly like, "Fuck"? Not only do I not get to see where that was going, but now I've got to deal with Ronaldo. Did you minute? Did you think it was going to be a Ronaldo episode?
No, he's been just because of the way you've been describing it, as they aired 4 and then there were 2. Like, that would be, I think, too much. If the fifth was Ronaldo,
due to the way I sort of set it up, you assumed that these last 2 had a
which I don't think is, in case anyone moans, I don't think that's fair, because they were trailered like this. So
I mean,
everyone had that foreknowledge.
No, Rebecca Sugar said these were like, these last couple of this block were kind of important, and that she was looking forward to people seeing them. So it was pretty set up. We knew there was something more than just the mayor wearing one of Sadie's sheets going into this one. So, but anyway, carry on.
So he goes, because Ronaldo has spotted something on the moon. Steven at first thinks that something is the moon base, then it becomes apparent it's the barn. So he goes up there on Lion. And confronts Lapis, who it turns out has been using the most expensive telescope of them all. I love that notion as well, by the way, that Greg bought Ronaldo the telescope. That's amazing. But
they set that up last week, didn't they?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I don't think he said he bought Ronaldo a telescope, did he? He just said, "I bought a telescope."
Yeah, that was.
Did he say he bought Ronaldo it?
No, they bought it. So in the meeting last week, they were like, "We need someone to keep a lookout," and then they buy Ronaldo the telescope because he wants to be the lookout.
Ah, right. I didn't catch that they were so linked. That's another thing that episode did really well. Then it really did link each bit beautifully.
Yeah, anyway. So I did, and I purposely didn't draw attention to the Ronaldo one because I wanted this to be a surprise. Turns out you missed it anyway. So carry on.
So Lapis, just the moon's boring her, and she's taking a look at Earth, keeping an eye on what everyone's doing. We see some cool footage of what appears to be like the gems training, which gets me even more excited that, like, there's going to be a battle. And she kind of reveals that she's lonely and she's running away again. And Steven, as he's drifting to sleep, is like, "Oh, well, when you come back," and she's all smiles. She sings a really lovely song about how she's, might not be alone, and it looks like she's coming round. And Steven dreams about the diamonds. We see them talking to Pink about how she shouldn't be bothered about rose quartz and this uprising, and they're not letting Pink speak. And then as they walk off, the outline of Pearl appears, and Pearl's got Rose's sword. And I don't know. And if anyone missed that was.
I'm
and
glad you repeated that because I didn't catch the second. No. So I was.
Yeah.
I mean, for a second, I was lost.
The insightfulness of my analysing was missed on you. Then Stephen calls after it. He's like, Pearl, and then it does this like freaky turn around and this like evil outline Pearl. Stephen wakes up.
I think we need to make Evil Outline Pearl the official name of this character. Evil Outline Pearl. She's like the new villain. The diamonds be quaking in their boots because Evil Outline Pearl is a coming.
Evil Outline Pearl is coming. And then, so then Stephen wakes up, tells Lapis about the diamonds coming. Lapis gets scared and runs away. No real thought for Stephen's safety. Opens the airlock.
I know.
But Lion
Thank
appears.
fuck for Lion, right?
Yeah, Lion appears. And then Lapis kind of says she can't handle this. She wants to get as far away from Earth as possible. So, despite her looking like she was come back, she sort of leaves and does that out of fear. So I can only assume next time we see her, she's going to be brave, accidentally get killed, turn peak, and become a portal for Stephen to travel through. Just an assumption. Based on Lars. So Lapis goes away, and then Stephen turns around and in a scene that I then imagine featured heavily in the trailers, just goes, I want to talk to Pearl. Right, let's.
Where do you want to start?
I don't want to overshadow theories. It seems good to put theories at the end. Let's park what the fuck's going on with Pearl,
right,
and make sure we don't miss the Lapis of it all.
Very good.
Because
yes, I agree.
Between the song, how they explain that character, what she's doing, it was all beautifully written.
It really was.
As we discussed before, I think this is probably the last time they can do this. I suspect it probably is going to be the last time they do it. But the notion of her being scared and running away. And what I love is, like, I draw that comparison with Lars, but she doesn't feel cowardly because of what she's gone through. She feels... It's amazing how, actually, if you boil it down from, like, the nervousness and the running away and all, and the not staying to help friends, all of that on paper is very similar to the Lars story, but it feels and is completely different because Lars was all about cowardice, whereas hers, she's broken. She's hurt from this experience and what happened to her, and she's got PTSD in a way. She's traumatized. She's, and it's so different to Lars that until this moment I didn't even make that connection. And that's such powerful writing. And I just thought it was beautiful. The song was lovely.
Yes.
The notion of, she's coming round, and then the rug pull, and as soon as he says, I dreamt about the diamonds, what's going to happen. Yeah. And your heart sinks. And then it happens, and you feel so sorry for Stephen, and what I love is, like, you're not so caught up in what the hell's going on with Pearl that you don't appreciate. You are just as captivated by that discussion when Lyons grabbed his hoodie, and that he's trying to convince her to stay. You are not distracted going, what about this Pearl thing? You are so engaged with that because of how well they do Lapis, or the cute blue one, whatever you want to call her.
Yeah.
I thought it was wonderful writing and wonderful character stuff.
Yeah, and I think it was interesting for me because I suppose if you'd have pitched me this episode, just like the log line or the A to B of just what happens in this episode, I'd have said, that sounds horrendous. I don't need another moment where we think Lapis is going to come round and then watch her. I think in the last one, the one where she took the barn with her, the Raising the Barn episode, I think I said, and I was echoing what I felt at the time, because that's how we have to play this sometimes, because I had to act like I hadn't seen this yet. I distinctly made the point of, I think this is the last time you get away with this, because I think that is what I felt at the time. But in execution, I think they got around it. And got around it's not the right word. They developed it, because I think the context they give to her choices here is arguably the most coherent, the most understandable, and the most heartbreaking. Because as much as we've talked in the past about how she's traumatized and she's had all this horrible stuff happen to her, you realise there's another element of it, which is that a big part of her doesn't want to be that way. And that makes it so much worse. Because if you were happy with your, like, if you have this trauma that's forcing you to make these decisions, run away, escape. If that made you feel better, then fine. I don't agree with you, in this case, Lapis, but you're doing it for you, and sometimes you've got to make pro-you choices in life. If you can't face another war, it's not your place to fight if you don't want to. Off you go, right? No question. But the real tragedy is there's a part of her in there battling with that, going, no, I want to help my friends. I want to be there. I want to support them. I want to do the right thing.
I don't want to be alone.
And I don't want to be alone. And that gives the whole thing a new angle of tragedy that it didn't have previously. And I'm sure that was there, but it is not anywhere made as clear as it is in this episode, I don't think.
It doesn't feel like a repeat, because in execution and in every element of its execution, it is a sequel to Raising the Barn. It is her continuing that and beginning to not have that discussion again, but beginning to change her mind.
Yeah.
You absolutely believe she's coming around.
Yes, agreed.
And then she makes a snap decision out of fear. And I assume will ultimately change her mind, and I hope. But they, you know what? They have done enough to, if she has, from your perspective, already changed her mind, I hope it's fucking brilliant. I hope it is, it all looks lost and then she saves the day.
Right.
And they have so earned that moment.
Yeah, it's interesting. I agree. I think, and I feel like I felt that way a little bit watching this too, which is that, like, they did sow enough doubt that if she showed up out of the blue in future and had a heroic moment, you would go, well, they earned that because they set up that she wants to be that person here. I agree with that sentiment. And I think what they really do, I think, that makes this so powerful is they flip the argument. It is normally Lapis going, no, I can't get involved in your war, I have to go. And Stephen going, yeah, but this and that. And what they do to make that all work, there's all that stuff we've been praising them for, the way they do it is they reverse the roles. Not reverse the roles that Stephen's telling us she has to run as such, actually. Maybe that's the wrong way to do it. But she voices Stephen's part of that argument. She says this great line where, like, she goes, I was so scared of the diamonds coming and ruining my life that I went and ruined my life. I was so scared of them coming and destroying my life at the barn, I ended up destroying my life at the barn, or something like that. And, what a brilliant piece of self-reflection from Lapis. And that's real growth. That's legitimate growth. I talked in Raising the Barn about how you can moan all you like about the fact Lapis keeps running away. It's consistent. The character has never pretended to change. She's always been not partial to the fighting, not partial to the war. She has found a home there, but the second there's a sniff of the diamonds and an oncoming gem war again, she's getting the fuck out. It was unsurprising. It was consistent with her character, and it was more of an exploration of how Peridot felt about that than it was about how Lapis felt, because we knew how Lapis felt. This is the other side of that coin now. She is now starting to see the flaw in her logic. And the way they make her voice arguments that Stephen would have been saying to her, back in Raising the Barn, had the conversation lasted longer than it did. It's genius. It is really a true work of sort of character art. Like, it's beautifully done. And you can see how she got there. You can see how she, even in the setup of, she got halfway out of the galaxy and was like, I can't be that far away from them. And the fact that she wasn't brave enough to go back and face them because she felt shame, and then she landed on the moon where she could, like, observe at least, so she could feel somewhat connected to what was going on. Like, how perfect. Like, of a situation
Absolutely.
to put her in, and a great setup, and a really good progression for her character, and even as well the self-awareness at the end. Steven's like, Lapis, don't do this, and she's like, well, you should be used to this by now, Steven. Like, oh, come on. Like, even she knows.
Really powerful
that
stuff.
even she knows she's a hopeless case, or he thinks, I should say, that she's a hopeless case. Like, that's nuts. Like, she is absolutely torn between trauma and a desire to do the right thing, and it's heartbreaking to watch. It really is, but in the best possible way. It's such great drama. I could honestly rant about this stuff all day. I do love this episode, and I will say I actually think I enjoyed it more this time round.
Watching it again now. So is this because these episodes aired recently? Is this the first time you've rewatched them, or
This is the first time. Yeah, basically, yeah.
Wow.
Clips like the Pearl thing watched since, but that's the problem with this episode and it's exactly the thing I'm glad you helped us avoid here. I think a little bit the Pearl of it all and the Pink Diamond of it all and the Dream of it all overshadows the Lapis stuff. And rewatching it this time, I got more out of the Lapis stuff than I did the first time.
But in many ways, I get the feeling, assuming we get that moment where she comes back. I don't know if you've had it yet, but, hoping and assuming we get that moment.
Yeah.
It's not so much about her leaving. It's about her coming back and actually,
setting that up
even
is
though I
important.
imagine most of the Reddit chat and stuff was about the Pearl stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, when she comes back, this episode is going to feed into that. And yes, there's a danger of that for us, which is why I deliberately said let's do Lapis first.
Yeah, I agree.
But for most people watching, that's less of an issue.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. Well, I feel like the conversation was dominated by the implications of the dream after this episode aired. And I feel like I feel like as a result of the dream just like being such a point of like, what the fuck is going on? As a result, you find yourself in this weird position where you sort of pay less attention to the Lapis stuff, and it feels, in hindsight, when you remember the episode, slightly less developed than it actually is. I think it just takes a little bit of the kick out of all the Lapis stuff, and look, it can't be helped. You want to push the plot forward, you want to push the characters forward. Sometimes one's going to overshadow the other slightly. It's just the nature of these things. Rewatching it though, already having sort of talk to death with fandom about the getting that out of my system, that initial oh my god what's going on with this dream, like once you get that out of your system and you watch this episode again, that Lapis stuff is fucking some of the best character work this show has ever done, legitimately. Like it's brilliant, it's really good, and I will say I appreciated it more on this viewing than I did the first, for sure.
Great song as well, like
It's
a
beautiful,
really
isn't
good,
it? It's
good,
called,
beautiful
I think it's
song.
called On That Distant Shore. And I must admit, I went back and watched that song a couple times after this episode aired. Like, I found a clip
Oh, of course, because I imagine then, is this song not on your vinyl?
it is not on my vinyl. No, it's too new.
Because it aired after.
Same with all of the Sadie Killer and the Suspects tracks.
All of them? Oh, fuck, you must be gutted.
Yeah, I mean, I would honestly, I would buy a Sadie Killer and the Suspects album like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's cool. They're on iTunes and stuff. So the only one they haven't released is the one called Sadie Killer and the Suspects that you only get a glimpse of in the big show. They've released the other two. They've released a Ghost and the very first one, Working Dead.
So in conclusion, the Lapis stuff, awesome, amazing, great character work.
Yes.
Love it.
And
So-
actually, one last thing to add before we go to Pearl. Actually, I wanted to say that this is possibly the best use of Ronaldo that the show has done thus far. Perfect use of him. He's funny. He's in. He pushes the plot, and he gets out. It's perfect.
I think that's a little unfair because I don't think any use that involves a character leaving immediately, that shouldn't be the best use of them. I'd prefer the one The one where he's background and has a girlfriend who he then manages to
that
lose.
one was great.
Because he gets involved in the restaurant war. But I think that's a better use for me of Ronaldo.
That's actually really fair. I think I actually do agree with that. I think you've changed my mind very quickly. But I will say I do love how they used him here. My favourite element being when he
I
says...
tell you what, it's the best use of his conspiracy theory side.
Yes. Yeah, agreed. And it leads to the best joke of the episode, which is, Steven, he found something. And he's like, yeah, you found something every night this week. And he's like, it's because I'm awesome. He's like, can't you tell Nana Foy? And he goes, not a fourth time. It's just so good.
Yeah, that was one of my favourite jokes of well, it's probably one of the few gags of this episode.
Yeah, it's not the most gag-heavy episode.
In general, that was brilliant.
Before we got onto the Pearl thing, I just wanted to hit on that, because going to that after we talk about the Pearl stuff would feel a bit weird. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out there. I think Ronaldo's used really well in this episode. I think he was funny. I think he was a perfect character to use to sort of set up Steven discovering that Lapis was on the moon. And also one last other little thing. Sorry about the Lapis stuff. That the hologram thing that she uses to spy on the world is a really neat, cool piece of technology that makes perfect sense for the diamonds if it's an observation deck of Earth, from the moon to observe the colony. That piece of technology makes perfect sense. And you may even recall, Chris, that on the jungle moon equivalent to that piece of equipment, with the bigger chair, there was
really
go on. Hello,
right, you there?
Yeah. What's up?
Talk again.
Yeah, I'm talking.
Okay, you're fine. You broke up. I didn't make a word of that last bit, and I think we talked over each other as well, which I apologise for, because I don't think you could hear me for a bit as well.
Oh. Unfortunate.
Right, I can hear you now. Well, did you hear me say, let me finish my point, and then what you were just making? So I said, fuck. Can't remember what I was saying now.
I don't know.
I thought that joke about Ronaldo. Did you hear me say that joke where Ronaldo's like, not for a fourth time, was one of the best jokes? And then I point out, I think it was one of the best jokes of the episode. Well, it's not really a big comedy episode, but I thought that joke was fantastic.
Yeah, I heard you say that, and then I said, and one last thing before we move on to Pearl.
I didn't hear anything after one last thing, so tell me now, Dan.
Dear Lord. Oh, I made it was a whole bit. You could have let me know you couldn't hear me sooner, because I could hear you fine. Oh, okay. I don't remember what I was saying. Honestly, I've lost the train of thought completely.
Something about a hologram. I heard the word hologram.
Oh yeah, so the I thought the technology in the base was really clever and made perfect sense. So that ball thing that you touch, and so it's an observation deck on the moon of Earth, and it makes perfect sense that a diamond would use that to keep an eye on their colony, but also as a little callback to Jungle Moon, Chris, in the Jungle Moon equivalent that was obviously yellow diamonds, there was also a globe deactivated in the lower chamber, exactly like the one there. Inactive, obviously, but that technology was set up as being in both of those buildings, and I thought that's a nice piece of continuity that both moon bases were mirrors of each other in that sense.
The complexity and integratedness of this show's plotting and stuff, I don't think will ever fail to amaze me. And I think you're right. Like, I hadn't thought of that. Like, I thought it was cool, and I was thinking of it in an emotional sense for what it meant for her character and what her character was doing. But actually, of course, it also makes complete sense for, given the task they were doing and colonizing and stuff, it makes complete sense as a piece of technology that they would have as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like it's so perfect for both things. It covers exactly what they would need, but exactly also what the show needed to put Lapis in, the position we had. And then using it as well during the song to visually show her amongst the group, but as a shadow because she was gone. Beautifully done.
Yeah, and the focus on like the really subtle, and I don't think it's necessarily a shipping thing, but the focus on Peridot during that, the focus
Agreed.
on the fact that you see everyone, but Peridot walks in frame first, and you almost get the sense that she's looking at Peridot and stuff.
Yeah,
and she's meant to be sat next to Peridot. I thought that was all lovely.
Yeah, really well done. I agree. 10 points. Anyway, right. Let's get to the thing then. Let's get to the big one.
Yes.
So
and apologies if Dan's ended up leaving both of those in, and it was really confusing for a bit. I apologise.
I'll try.
I
will try and smooth it out, Chris. So
cool. If I struggle to hear you again, Dan, I will let you know.
Yes, please. Because if I keep talking and I don't know that you can't hear me, then I'm literally wasting time.
Yeah, and you know what? I thought about lying. I thought about being like, I did try and tell you, and then I realised that you would have the audio evidence and know that I didn't at all.
Yeah. So you weren't being nice. You just realised I'd catch you.
Yeah. If I could have lied, I'd have got away with it and got away with it. I'd have done so.
Yeah. Anyway, carry on. So
what were
let's hit the Pearl stuff. Like, what do you think? What are your thoughts of the dream?
Sorry, I've just put an ice cube in my mouth.
Why would you do that? Right? No, I'm calling you out now because we've just spent the whole episode going, we'll get to the Pearl stuff, guys. Don't you worry. We'll get to the Pearl stuff. We finally, after 2 or 3 more divergence from that path, go, right, we're doing it. Chris, what's the deal? Right. What do you think? And you're
melted.
I've got an ice cube in my mouth.
It's a small ice cube. It's been in here since the beginning of the recording session, so it's tiny. We've got these massive, big ice cubes. No, give me the little squares. Anyway, so mate, I don't fucking know. Right, so the dream, I'm still. So he's in a room that Pink was in, but why is he? Pink's got to be alive, surely, which makes me think...
But this time it wasn't... No, but the last time your whole thing was it's from her perspective.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, and this wasn't. Nope. Yeah, so that's weird. I'll give you that. Yeah, that perspective thing was one of the first things I noticed about it, actually. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, we're no longer from her. He's just witnessing this. So Pearl's described as a pearl without a leader, isn't she?
A pearl without a master.
Or so that makes me think
without a gem. Or I think pearl without a gem. So she wasn't assigned to any like high class gem.
Which makes me think Pearl, because she must have been at some point. So was Pearl pink diamonds like Pearl, and then fell out with her and ran away from her and joined and fell in love with Rose? So, left Pink for Rose, and then it seemed to be suggesting, because of the sword and the way it was done, that like she was gonna shatter her or something, which I find it hard to believe. Like, did Pearl do it for Rose? Like, that's nuts. Like, so like, you've left your master, cool, now go shatter her. That doesn't seem like... I mean, that makes Rose look like a right ass, for one. And it, I think, would stretch Pearl's dedication too far for her to murder another gem for Rose. But, I mean, Pearl's clearly involved. The big part, I can't piece it all together, but the big thing I'm sure of is that Pearl was Pink's Pearl.
Yeah, that makes sense, because like the and I will say that feeds into what fans were thinking at this point, because the discussion very much was okay, Pearl without a master, why did she not have one? It's not that she never had one, it's that she had one and it had ended
when Rose came along.
Well, yeah, basically.
Pearl's dedication to Rose is a love thing, but also, like we talked before about the way the other pearls are with their diamonds and sort of the similarities. Pearl's mourning after Rose turned into Steven and stuff. Like it that line between love for love and love for someone who's your master, it seems very blurred. So like it's like Rose became Pearl's master.
Well, yeah. I mean, you go back to the episode where she's teaching Connie to sword fight. The song is, do it for her.
Mm.
It's a very recurring theme in Pearl's life of subservience, and it's interesting because I honestly think that, because what you said, and I'm going off what you're saying here. So again, you'll have to. I'm going to prefix many of the things I say today. Just assume that I'm saying that I'm working off what you're saying here, and don't try to read anything into what I'm sort of suggesting. You have suggested that you felt that there was a possibility that they were hinting that Rose might have had Pearl do the shattering because of the use of the sword, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you said you're not sure that Pearl could go that far for Rose, right? But you've got to keep in mind, I would add to that point, or to not counter in a way to that. Keep in mind that if this is a young Pearl that has not long been in the charge of Rose because she'd previously been part of the Diamond Society, is it possible she wasn't as free as she maybe thought, and the subservience that Pearls are forced into on Homeworld played a part, and that she sort of substituted one master for another and called it freedom, But in order for that to make sense, her subservientness to Rose, if the theory that she was Pink's is correct, she's then to believe that she is so in Rose's command would counteract that she was in. I can't see how she's in Rose's command enough to shatter Pink Diamond, but not be in Pink's command enough to not leave Pink in the first place. Because it seems to be Pearl left Pink, found a new master in Rose, and then Rose asked her to shatter her former master. Now, if it is that is incredibly Shakespearean and brilliant and insane and masterful and brilliant, but I can't help but feel there must be more, or a twist in the tale, because in order to make me believe that Pearl would do that for Rose, I find it hard to believe that Pearl was able to leave Pink. So so if she's that subservient, how did she leave Pink in the first place? Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an interesting...
But the Shakespeare of that is beautiful.
100%.
But then I go back to, well, maybe Pink's not even dead, because why Stephen, this wasn't first person, but it sure as hell felt first person before. Mm-hmm. But it's an observation thing, so maybe somehow through that technology observing, maybe he is in tune with stuff, which I still don't like, but maybe.
Yeah,
maybe Lapis did it.
Yeah, Lapis just put that in his brain. I think there's certainly a lot to think about, and I think that what's cool about it is it's like it all feels so tangential. When you're watching it, you're like, I'm getting such good information, and then when it finishes, you go, actually, I still don't know what the fuck's going on. While you're watching it, you feel so confident that you're understanding, and then the minute
I'm glad
the episode ends, you're just lost.
I'm glad Pearl's involved though, because I feel like we've got a lot of Amethyst backstory and Garnets, and I feel like we're in Lapis now as well, and I feel like we're. But I mean, you did say
recently that you thought Pearl was hiding something.
Yeah, definitely, because she kept choking up when it was the Gemcation chat, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Outside. Rose is a bit dodge and Pearl's hiding something. And I just love I think the only other thing, and I don't want to do this, but it would be really, in terms of flashbacks of characters, it'd be really cool to see a flashback of Peridot when she was old Peridot. That could be quite cool now. And quite funny.
Oh, yeah. That's a really good idea, actually.
But more than that now, obviously, I want to explore Pearl.
Yeah, and I think that this.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you. I got a theory.
Okay.
They made such a big deal of the phone. She can't tell Stephen, but she can text it to him. So the next episode is just Stephen reading a text.
Yeah, that explains everything.
Yeah.
No, she just sends him. She just sends him emojis. He has to work it out from emojis. So she sends him a diamond-shaped emoji, and then she sends him a sword-shaped emoji, and then she sends him the one of the rose.
And then just a sad face.
And it's just him talking to Amethyst like, what does it mean?
And then just a sad, teary face.
Yeah.
Steven Universe crosses over with the Emoji Movie.
Oh God, don't remind me.
Man.
Don't remind me of the Emoji Movie, please. Blasphemy.
I don't.
That's like, we should if we had a swear jar, it'd be mentioning the Emoji Movie.
I nearly watched it the other day, but I decided against it.
It's horrible.
Oh man. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think that's all I can seem to think. So the big question.
But I think you shouldn't feel frustrated because it's clear that they haven't. They want the intention of this episode was not to fill you in on all of the stuff. So I can sense you getting frustrated. You're going like, there's something I'm missing, and it's like, yeah, maybe, probably, but like the episode didn't pretend to have all the answers. Do you know what I mean? It was clearly a tease for something that's upcoming. You know what I mean? Like a fuller version of a story. That at some point we'll get. I mean, how do you think they handle this now? Do you think we go straight into it next week? Do you have to with that ending?
Oh yeah, next week starts with Stephen confronting Pearl. Surely,
this is Steven Universe.
Yeah, but it's the
if any show can figure out a way to deflect, it's Steven Universe.
No, I don't think you hold back the last 2 episodes and then do an episode about Mr. Smiley after this one.
Oh man. You've just Wikipedia again, Chris. How did you know next episode was about Mr. Smiley? I think, yeah. I mean,
what were the theories at the time?
The honest now this people will probably because it's one of those things where me giving you theories could help you put stuff together potentially. So I've got to be careful with. I don't want to not tell you what people were thinking because I was getting to read that stuff. So I'm prefixing this with
an interesting moral dilemma, isn't it?
It is a little.
This stuff has just happened. It feels so much more like people, especially the risk for you, like you accidentally giving me enough to work out Garnet, was Ruby and Sapphire. That probably wouldn't annoy people because that surprise for them was 3 years ago. Whereas because these surprises are recent, if you accidentally help me work it out, people will be annoyed. So it's a really difficult position.
But I will tell you the theory I saw the most.
Okay.
So and I want to prefix this with, you will not be able to analyze if this is accurate based on me telling it to you. Because in the past you've gone, you're telling me, so it must be false because you wouldn't tell me a true thing. I am going to say that I am honestly telling you the thing I read the most going into this episode, regardless of whether it is true or not. That way, I get to tell you a theory without spoiling it, because it comes with the prefix of, this is what I heard the most prior to watching the next episode.
And no one gets shitty with Dan because he's only giving me what everyone else had.
Yeah, checking on like Reddit and stuff in the build up to these episodes. Yeah, absolutely.
Which, if I was watching this live, is what I'd be doing. So it's not even like,
yeah, absolutely.
Like I think sometimes like I loved Fringe and I was always excited by it, but I don't know if I'd have watched Fringe live if I'd have reached a Reddit point of view. Like I did with Lost and The Office, are probably the only 2 shows. Maybe How I Met Your Mother, which mainly at the end was, please someone find evidence for her not being dead. Spoilers. Right, go on, hit me with it.
So the thing I read the most was, we've established in the past that Pearl is not a fan of shapeshifting. She's dismissed it and she's never done it. She's been invited to do it several times and she's always rolled her eyes or just not gone along with it. There have been times when it would have literally helped her and she hasn't done it. The popular theory built off this episode plus, well, not even this episode actually, a promo for this episode which involved that dream sequence, which is annoying. We'll get to that in a minute. I'll tell you about that in a sec. and that combining that was that she did it while shapeshifted as Rose. So that she could do it without taking the blame, putting it on Rose, and the reason because then the question goes, why would you do that then? The logic that I saw being used was that they talked about the Zircons talked about the murder and went, how would anybody get so close to Pink to do that?
Right, she got close because she was her Pearl, so that's how she was able to get so close.
And then shapeshifted to Rose, sort of out of sight, and then quickly jumped out and finished the job. So she was able to do it. She was in the best position. That makes a lot of sense. She was in the best position to both get close and do it as Rose. And the reason she would do it as Rose is because then it means she doesn't take the blame and all the hate from the diamonds, because presumably when Rose did that, she couldn't have imagined the diamonds would go to the lengths they went to destroy everything and everyone on the earth. I assume you assume in this theory that Rose is thinking they'll come after me, and that's fine as long as everyone else is cool. It didn't work out that way. The diamonds, corrupted every gem on the planet.
Yeah, they were pissed.
Yeah, they were pretty pissed. So that was the theory I saw most. Now, what's interesting about this is these two episodes actually aired on the same day, and that theory was based on trailers for these episodes that were mostly showed Pearl with the sword, basically.
Wait. These two aired on the same day?
Yes.
So
the theorizing I was describing earlier, and all the theorizing came from the fact that they revealed the crux of this dream sequence in a trailer.
The best way to get that is the way I've just experienced.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
So the entire time, all the great Lapis stuff is going on. People are distracted by what they know is coming with Pearl.
Not necessarily, because it was 2 episodes, and we didn't know which episode contained that clip.
But did the promo then talk about this notion of Pearl potentially doing the shattering?
No.
Okay.
No. The clip showed Pearl with the sword, and everyone went, well, that suggests to me, the same way it did to you when you watched it, that because it's specifically Rose's sword, and you see her using it. And it had come up before the shape-shifting thing, because people get really hooked on this notion of why doesn't Pearl shapeshift? And we talked about it in the early days of this podcast.
Yeah, I remember.
It became a really interesting notion to people, and I think they were looking for that reason. And this idea that she'd done it for Rose was a really interesting one, and it explained a lot. You could use it to explain a lot. So that was the popular theory. Whether that is what happens or not, I will not reveal. But I think it is only fair, in this situation, that you hear some of the things people were talking about at the time, which is that by far was the primary voice of what's coming, of theorizing.
Wow, I can't wait to see. I think it's a little bit cruel that we at one point talked about recording 1 tonight, and you pushed for 2. And now I have to wait. Whereas if we were doing...
I didn't think that through. I just wanted to get through more episodes. I honestly didn't think that through.
No, I know. I'm joking. We haven't even yet got that. I don't even know when I'm going to watch it. And I will wait, because I think it's best to get fresh reactions.
Oh, definitely. I would certainly suggest that if let's make no bones about it, because it's pretty clear. Like the next, Steven ended this episode. Let's go talk to Pearl. There's one more episode left of this sort of little mini bomb, whatever you want to call it. So I don't think anyone's going to accuse me of spoiling you to say here that is along the right lines. So, there is another episode, and it does kind of deal with this. Well, how much information you get out of it is another question, obviously, because it's Steven Universe after all. But I think that with this, it's almost, it is a bit cruel to have sort of given you this tease and not let you watch the next one, because I got to see them back to back. But I will say that I wasn't thinking about that at all when I made that call.
No, I know.
I was looking at just the timings and being like, oh, we should do it. But because that episode is about like probably going to deal with some serious stuff, I would definitely recommend holding off on watching it when we're going to record and not watching it ahead of time.
Yeah, and I
Fresh reactions are important.
But yeah, because I think fresh reactions are so much fun, and I think it's for with complete sincerity, I will do that because I think the listeners will get more of a kick out of that than me being like, well, I watched it a week ago and rewatched it now. Plus, I think we're due to record fairly imminently, so it's fine.
Yeah, I think
the suggestion of it being in 2 days' time, so it's not a problem.
Well, yeah, I mean, I gave you what days I was free yesterday, so it's just for you to pick them. So yeah, you can. I assume now you might pick a sooner one out of eagerness.
No, I don't know. I'd have worked it to cram in as much as possible anyway, with you going away. But I thought this was awesome, and when watching it in this context, so brilliant to appreciate all angles of it. I thought the balance of the Lapis stuff and the Pearl stuff was brilliant, and I just want to find out what happens next.
Yeah, I'm just having a quick look to see if there is any trivia. There is pretty much none.
Yeah.
There's pretty much none. I mean, one of the pieces of trivia is that Steven, Lapis, Ronaldo, and Blue Diamond are the only 4 people speaking in this episode. I don't know why they felt that was noteworthy. And then this is Lapis's first song.
But on that, have you said before who voices Blue Diamond? Because I feel like I know the voice. Have you said who that is?
I haven't said who it is, but what I found interesting about this episode, and we can quickly talk about, this is the first time her actual accent came through. In the past, she's always sort of suppressed it a bit, but the actress in question
is she a little bit Irish?
She is Irish. Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah, that's why I suddenly I was like, that's an Irish voice, isn't it? And I suddenly recognised it more. So who is it?
I'm going to quickly look it up because I've never actually bothered to look up who it is. That's really bad because I can tell you who voices Yellow Diamond. It's Patti LuPone. So I don't know why. I even know the big rumoured casting for if they ever do decide to introduce White Diamond. So, like, how do I know?
Then?
That is a lady by the name of Christine Ebersol. She is another star of Broadway that is that works closely often and has a long history with Patti LuPone, who voices Yellow Diamond. They're both sort of big old sort of like Broadway stars that have just got these incredible singing voices. Someone asked Christine Ebersol at a signing, they said, what about these White Diamond rumors? And she goes, no. He goes, no. And she goes, no, it's not a rumor. which is great. So that's pretty exciting. Let's have a quick look. If anyone wants to look that clip up, the guy posted the clip of her saying that on YouTube. So if anyone who doubts me on that one can look it up. So she has been heavily rumored for some time to be the voice. Let's quickly look up. I feel like I should know, but I don't, because I know all that. But yet somehow I don't off the top of my head know who voices Blue. Her name is Lisa Hannigan. Let's find out what else she's done.
Oh, she's I know that name. She works with Damien Rice. I think she has vocals on his first album. Well, he might have. I'm only really into his first album, but on O.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, cool. I thought I recognised it.
Lisa
there's a
Hannigan,
song,
an Irish singer, songwriter, and musician.
There's a song called Eskimo that I believe she features quite heavily on, which is a beautiful track. I think she's on Eskimo. She's that first album's like 9 tracks long. Go listen to it immediately. It's brilliant. But yeah,
cool. This is the first time the actress allowed her Irish accent to come through heavily. Or noticeably, maybe.
That'll be why I suddenly went, who is that? Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe in the past I've looked her up and not known her and been like, I don't know. Which is maybe why I didn't have.
You got that album, haven't you? You got that Damien Rice album
somewhere.
That's good.
Yeah, there you go. She began her music career as a member of Damien Rice's band. Yeah, this is her. She's had a solo career since then. She's released 3 albums.
Oh,
including one last year called At Swim. So if any of you guys out there have Spotify and want to hear more of the voice of Blue Diamond, there you go. You can listen to some of her music.
Cool.
There you go. So I think that about wraps it. There's nothing else I can see here.
Yeah, I mean, my mind will continue to swirl whether we do this or not. So
yeah. I think that is sort of the intention of this episode?
I'm a little bit gutted that you got both. I know normally I'd be like, oh, I'm jealous. You got the conclusion right away. I tell you what, I'm a little bit gutted. I think this was designed to make people wonder and theorize. And again, like you were saying last week with or last episode, with the notion that maybe they put Lars in the Stars in the promos so people knew that was coming. I feel like maybe that was in the promo so people would get that. But the best way to view this is to view it, think on it, and then view the next one. I
agree. I'm a little jealous of you. Like, I think,
exactly.
I think you got the better experience, because I think that power of that ending of Steven, and by the way, again, and we said a lot, but voice acting credit, like Zach Callison, man, holy shit! That moment when he's like, "Lion, take me to Pearl," it's like, holy shit, he's got. I mean, I just butchered it, but like, he did such a great job indicating how serious this is and how like determined he is in one line. It's such good voice acting. But yeah, I agree with you. I actually think these episodes would have been better served with a gap, 100%. But thankfully, we got a little bit to do the theorizing before it aired, because they released that clip that allowed people to start speculating prior to it airing. Because the crux of it, which is that moment of Pearl pulling out the sword and looking at the camera all evil outline Pearl, that was in a trailer, so we had that sort of shot.
Okay,
so
maybe I'll dig that trailer out after watching the next.
I would wait till after watching the next.
I will do,
at least. But I think it's a really great episode and a perfect setup to what feels like quite an important episode. So I guess we'll leave this here, and we'll talk about that next week.
Man.
Cool. So that's everything for this week then. I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
We'll speak to you next week as we discuss A Single Pale Rose.